Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today what we're going to do is a quick rundown of my forge slash workshop. Gonna go into some forging videos very soon and just want to give you guys a breakdown of where I'm at and where I started from. So let's go along and have a look. Alright, just here we have my starting setup. And it wasn't all at once either. So the very first thing I had that drove me towards blacksmithing is I picked up this little plumb straight peen hammer. It's a nice old one, and I picked that up off eBay many years back, and that was the first thing that sort of started making me think about blacksmithing. And I was at a tool shop and saw this tiny little anvil here, and it's like, oh great, that's just the thing. It'll go with my hammer and I'll be able to become a blacksmith. So yeah, little did I know that wasn't going to work out, but hey. Alright, next we come to my forge. Originally this was an old riveter's forge. And the riveter's forge was rusted out, so what I'd done is I got a circular barbecue and I cut the bottom out of it and I attached the center of the riveter's forge. The hand crank on the riveter's forge wasn't working, so there is my air source. It is just a cheap fan from the supermarket. It's as simple as that. Originally I burnt wood in it, then moved on to making charcoal, and that's pretty much where that went. That kept me going until I got up to knife making, and I even hardened a couple of knives in it. Right here you see my next progression in anvils. It's a piece of railway track. It has more mass than that little one, so it was better for moving material on. So yeah, that was the next step up. It was still not awesome, but things were moving along. You know, you do what you got to do to get by. Right here we have the first set of tongs I made, and they are as ugly as sin. They are horrid things. They don't work properly in any way, shape or form, but I was pretty happy that I made them. Yeah, they're not great in any way, shape or form. They're too thin up at the bits. Yeah, just pretty horrible things. But as I said, I made them, so I was pretty proud of them at the time. Alright, we come around. My next step was actually a gas forge. I bought a kit which goes into an LPG tank, or a propane tank for the Americans. It is an LPG forge. You would have seen this one on my heat treating a knife video. It is a wonderful little thing. Ideally you normally have a brick across the face here just to cut down the volume of heat that's coming out. My brick broke, so I've got to get a new brick, but that's all good. That runs just off a propane tank or a gas tank, and that is good in that you can heat multiple pieces at one time without any worry about the steel burning up. I can have 4 pieces in there and not stress about the fact that I'm going to burn the steel. It struggles to get to a welding sort of heat, but it will, just sort of make it there. It is a great forge for knife making, and it's a great forge for working in multiple pieces if I'm working on forging. So it's good in that, and it is a lot more temperature controlled than using a coke or coal forge. You can see here there's a wire coming out of it. Inside there's a tiny little wire just there. You may be able to see it. There is a tiny little wire that comes out of there, and that temperature sensors comes across to my temperature sensor here, and that shows the current temperature in Celsius that's inside there, 15 degrees, which is about 60 Fahrenheit. So for knife making, absolutely ideal. For working multiple pieces, again, great. We then come across and we have my coke forge. Now this is a little one that I bought off Gumtree, which is the Australian equivalent of Craigslist. It's not the greatest forge in the world, that's for sure. It has some awesome parts on it, but the actual sizes and everything leaves a little bit to be desired. We've got a little box fan down there with a saucepan lid to close the air down. The actual size of the forge is a little bit small, and the actual size of the fire pot is a little bit small. So I need to upgrade that, and I do have the materials to do that. But with my poor welding skills, I've been shy about doing it, and we'll probably get to a video of doing that down the track, so I can take you along for it. Down the bottom here we have a lift up ash release. The other big issue I have with coke forging at the second is the only coke I can get is this stuff here, which is huge. That is massive. It is hard to work with. Ideally you want to have stuff about that size, about peanut size, but the stuff I'm getting is huge, so I'm having to break it down with a hammer to actually make it workable, which tends to make me not want to do it. So I'm looking at making something to crush it down to a better, more usable size. But yeah, we'll move up to a bigger forge, and I'll work on getting something that I can crush the coke with. Coke is very hard to get here in Melbourne, so yeah, most of it comes down from Sydney, and it's very expensive to get down here, so it's something I've got to work on. Alright, lastly we come to my current anvil. My current anvil is a 50 kilo, so 100 pound anvil. It's mounted on a eucalyptus stump, which is just sitting on the ground. Ideally you want to be on a dirt floor, and you want that stump going into the dirt floor so nothing moves around. Even with that great big stump and 50 kilo worth of anvil, it'll hop around when you're swinging the hammer, so that is a bit of a pain in the butt. I could bolt it down to the floor, but I am in a rental property, so that makes it pretty hard to do. I don't really want to put too many holes in the concrete because landlords tend to get upset. Okay, now tools. We have here a basic set of tools which I've made. We've got a through punch, hot cut punch, that's a eye punch, and that is a round punch, which is also a drift. And we'll go along and make a set of those as we go through. Hammers I use, everyone would have seen this one if they've watched the video on the cheapest hammer on eBay. So I'm yet to christen that one, but we'll give it a go soon. The other one I use is a little 4 pound baby sledge. 4 pound, it might be 3 pound. 3 or 4 pound, so kilo to 2 kilo. And that one's great for moving metal. Ideally I'd like a rounding hammer, but I'm not quite there yet, and I'll have to move along to that. So as I said, it's all a matter of progression. It's what you've got where you move to. Okay, little hot cut that sits in the anvil. So it's a little hot cut hardy. That's just made out of a piece of leaf spring. I banged down a bit and took it over the grinder and put an edge on it. So nice, simple, dirt cheap, great little tool, very handy. The biggest problems with this anvil is it has no Pritchell hole, so I can't do a hold down on it, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. So I've either got to think about getting someone to drill out a Pritchell hole for it, or work another way around it. Also, the horn comes up pretty thick, so there's not a lot of room for working small stock around the tip of the horn. So that one's a bit of a pain, but yeah, it is what it is, and you get what you can get. We have a couple of the tongs that I've bought. This one's a set of wolf jaw tongs. They're a great tong for holding round stock, square stock, not so much flat stock, but they'll do the job at a pinch. And yeah, having a good commercial set of tongs when you're starting out, because it is hard to make a good set of tongs for yourself. So having a good commercial set of tongs is a big aid towards moving you along. If you can hold the stuff properly, you can work the stuff properly. And here we have a set of knife maker's tongs, hence why they're all covered with oil, because they often go into the quench oil. These are purely for making knives. They're designed to hold a piece of flat stock upright in them, so for quenching knives and that sort of thing, they are ideal. Then we have the next set of tongs that I've made, which is a set of bolt jaw tongs. They're not the prettiest tongs in the world, but they're also not the ugliest, because I already made those. So yeah, making tongs is a tricky thing for a beginner, and it's something that you sort of move along and you get better as you go along. So it's just moving my way along and learning as I go. So these were, yep, my next step up in tong making. And right here we have my latest set of tongs, which aren't quite finished yet. They still need a pin in them and adjustments. This is a set of scrolling tongs with a very long nose on them, and so they just need to be pinned and adjusted, but my tong game is coming along. And as you can see, that is the rest of my workspace. I fit all my knife working, all my knife making, all of my blacksmithing, everything fits out in a single car garage, and I have shelves down both walls in a single car garage just to try and get all of my tools out of the way. So yeah, it's a tight little space, but it does the job. Okay everyone, thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit that little bell notification so you know when I put out new videos, and continue along the journey with me. I am a beginner blacksmith. I do not claim to be an expert, so I'm going to be a beginner teaching beginners, but sometimes a beginner understands where you're at a bit more. I've swung a hammer a few times, I've had a few lessons, so come along for the journey and I'll show you what I know. Anytime you want, stick a comment down below. More than happy to interact with everyone. Alright, thank you everybody, and bye for now.